Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of What If. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, I will straight out say I think this might be... Last week's episode was kind of dark, but there was some hope to it. This might straight up just be the darkest episode, darkest timeline, darkest reality. Wow. It's so interesting, the shift of, once again, just the tiniest things, the greatest impact they could have, because Steven in the original timeline is in the car alone, but in this one he's with Christine, and she ends up dying, and his obsession, basically because of who, and that's the interesting thing, that despite whatever timeline or reality he's in, he's still going to be who he is, where he wanted to find a way around it. Initially, it's about, my hands. He wanted magic to fix his hands. In this one, he went off all the events of Doctor Strange played out, except now it's not just about his hands. Like, Christine's still alive and well and everything in his reality, and, maybe there's potential for that to... come up during Doctor Strange 2. Might even get winks and nods to it in No Way Home. But there's still potential for them to rebuild their relationship. But obviously, where he is now post Doctor Strange, it's like all he has is like his lament about the fact is not being able to save the woman he loves. But obviously, performing time magic is always dangerous. So... But he decides to do it anyway, and he reverses time and tries to do things differently. But even then, she dies again and again and again and again and again, because she's a fixed point in time. So I guess that's so interesting, because I guess that's suggesting him losing his hands was a fixed point in time. Because it's like, it's one thing because it's like, my hands, who cares? I can't be a surgeon anymore. I've become the Sorcerer Supreme. It's become so much more. That job and that duty means more. I mean, the arrogance inside of him could just simply be like, I'm the Sorcerer Supreme, so I'm above doing the whole surgery thing anyway. So that could be the mentality there. But this is coming into the place of this is someone you love. They die. You have the power to save them. But no matter what you do, it's never going to be enough, because it's a fixed point in time. So it's a very different and harsher fixed point in time, which is kind of jacked up to know that your hands getting messed up was a fixed point in time. It's like, it's meant to happen. You were meant to go down this route. Christine was meant to die in this reality, and that's the effed up thing too, of just depending on reality, the what is the necessary point, it differs. Why is it that our Doctor Strange got it off a little easier with just losing his hand? Yes, he ended up losing Christine, but they just broke up. She didn't die. And this Doctor Strange lost. It makes you wonder, what did other Doctor Stranges lose? If this one Doctor Strange lost Christine, what did others lose? And so there's always going to be I guess it's that tragic tale of things that set a hero on their path. There's always, you got to lose someone or something's got to happen to you. It's so sad to know that, especially because there's so many different realities. So for there to be a fixed point in time in a reality, in a different reality, it just kind of, it's that's kind of BS. Just when you think about it, because it's this is a fixed point in our reality. It's not a fixed point necessarily in someone else's, but the argument is it still is. It's the same point of something terrible happening at that point. It's just what that thing is. I'm going on a tangent and I'm just a little sporadic with, but I just think it's so fascinating that it's it is the same point in time that can't be fixed. It's just the event itself, and what's lost is different, and you slide that out, and that makes the biggest difference. And so he sets out on this path of even the Ancient One being no matter what you do, you can't bring her back. It's a fixed point in time. You will undo reality. There have been people before you who've tried but never been able to accomplish it. But he refuses to give up. So he ends up tracking down the library of Cagliostro Istio. Because obviously it's there's so many books and so many libraries that were lost, so there's no telling what text is out there that can remedy this situation. So he goes off and meets, Obey, and kind of points him in the right direction. And so he does. Oh, it's so interesting because there's also a parallel you can draw in so many cases. One, it's so interesting that we got this after seeing the trailer and getting a better idea of what's going to go down in No Way Home. Now, whether Strange is doing what he's doing in No Way Home because he's trying to teach Peter a life lesson, most extreme version and way of doing that. Or it could just simply be, I'm so arrogant, I believe I can do this without there being consequences. Who knows? So there's that. Granted, obviously the trailer dropped like the day before last week's episode of What If, but still, it's just interesting timing. But the other point I was going to make is you have Scarlet Witch trying to do the same thing with her kids at the end of WandaVision, potentially. I mean, the entirety of WandaVision was about her not being able to let go of like what she lost. And yeah, things went sideways, but I don't think it was bad. I think this is the even worse version of that because that was on a smaller scale of what Wanda did. Like to say, once again, it was wrong, but what Doctor Strange is doing is worse on a more cosmic level, so it kind of makes it like, yours is worse than hers, but there is a parallel that can be drawn because not only because what we see at the end, maybe her, her as the Scarlet Witch, whether it's her trying to bring back her kids or whether it's just a whisper of her kids, like trying to draw her towards evil to commit something like Doctor Strange is breaking reality just to bring your kids back. Who knows? Like, so it's a combination of her journey, what she was doing during WandaVision, as well as where she was at the end of WandaVision. You can still draw parallels to Strange in this moment. Reading all these books about it, and so for him to decide, like, he has to absorb the power of, he summons different beings so he can absorb their power. The first thing he summons is like that tentacle monster, which at first I was like, oh, it's Captain Carter gonna pop out of that? I guess like, well, it's like, right, this is probably like after she was already released, so I don't know if that thing was like fully dead or she was just cutting off its tentacles, but I can't remember. But like, she's probably already been released potentially in this reality. If this is, I mean, it might not be the same reality where Captain Carter exists, but regardless, Strange doesn't win in the end. But obviously for him, it's like, regardless of everything, like, Christine is worth everything. And that's the sad thing about, like, your borderline obsession with someone led to all of this. Your arrogance believing that you could be the one to change everything, that what you wanted was more important than this reality. And what I thought was so dope is, like, while he's absorbing everything, I love he starts off small. I actually felt a little bad. It was like that gnome was the first one. I was like, oh, it felt bad. Then the little like bug had his cape stolen. He's like, yeah, thanks for the cape. I'm not a big fan of bugs. I was like, oh, poor guy got his little cape stolen and everything. But while Strange is absorbing all this stuff and like how it's morphing him, I was like, is he going to stay like that? But it's like, no, in that moment he was able to maintain his, like, because he's absorbing the power without it letting it like fully consume him. But then we get the Watcher watching, being like, I could step in before this universe meets its end, but the fact of the matter is all I can do is watch. Even if I try to reach out to him, he probably wouldn't listen anyway. And then he turns around, he's like, who's there? I was like, oh. I mean, it makes sense. The Watcher is on that cosmic level stuff, and that's Doctor Strange's wheelhouse. So out of anyone, it would make the most sense that you would be able to like sense or interact on some level with the Watcher, unlike anyone else. I'm like, that's so fascinating. And to also drop that this early in the season. This is only episode 4. We're like barely at the halfway mark of the season, and like you've already hit that point, and I think that's so fascinating. But regardless, he keeps going and going, and it turns out he was in there for centuries of absorbing different creatures, finally getting his payback at the very end. It's like, right, meeting an old friend. But when he leaves again, O'Bane is old. It's like, oh yeah, like, I decided to live my life. Well, Steven didn't. His life has been on pause ever since Christine died, and he just could never let go of the past. And now, because of that, he let his entire life pass him by because all he had was this obsession, which maybe the argument could be I think because we find out that the Ancient One, she split Strange into two. Before he went to the past, she split him in two, and there's the one Strange who went down the path he did, but then there's the other Strange who decided, to let the past go, to put the Eye of Agamotto down, with the time zone and everything. And that was even interesting too. Like, I think that was kind of implying, like, because I think, Well, it happens later on, but I was about to say, like, there is the whole how the time stone changed and went from green to being red. I guess that was it being fully corrupted, because you kind of pour all that power and everything into it. Because I was wondering if, like, the time stone was going to reverse things and then completely break in the process. Doesn't seem like it, but I guess it's like it was in overload state of, like, right, it's done all it can do and there's no more. I mean, I'm skipping around, but it's like, right, there's no more time to rewind, so maybe that's why it's kind of like there's nothing else to do. You push it well beyond this reality, beyond its limits. Because as Strange is coming out, he realizes, like, wait, the reality's falling apart, and it's because there's part of him that couldn't let go of Christine. Like, he's the only one that can go up against his other self. And I love, even while he's disappearing, your boy Wong's still helping him, and, you know, it's like, you know, it's you loved her too. Like, can you really let her go? He's like, yeah, because it's like, you know, for the sake of the world. He's like, and, you know, I gotta save you too. And I was like, oh, that's sweet. You're looking out for your bestie. And, like, you know, the Doctor Strange that has gone down the wrong path summons him. And so obviously it's a conversation of, like, right, let's join together, we can save her. The difference between everyone else, whether it's Wong, whether it's the Ancient One, they didn't know her. You will understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, but we have to come together. Only by us coming together as a whole again can we save her. Like, we can do it. Like, just, you loved her. And he's like, yes, but the world shouldn't have to pay the price for, like, you know, it's like, we can't save her without dooming the world. You know, he's putting his response, like, you know, despite his arrogance and everything, he doesn't believe he can have everything in this moment. He believes, like, this is we have to turn back. We can't go down this path. But for the dark Doctor Strange is like, I just sacrificed centuries to this. I won't give up now, not when I'm so close to the goal. And so it turns into a full-blown sorcerer battle. You expected, I wish he would have been able to pull out more of those tricks of what he did against Thanos. Like, that would have been dope. But I guess it's like, right, we already kind of got them in the Thanos fight, so it would have just been repeating that, but them going blow for blow. I even love at one point they lose their capes and their capes are duking it out. I felt so bad when his cape got destroyed. I was like, no, that's all to your buddy. Like, because that cape has personality. It's a character in its own right. And when Dark Doctor Strange burned it, I was like, no, it's kind of messed up. He gets to keep his cape, but the good Doctor Strange doesn't. But I love that Dark Doctor Strange tried to trick the other Steven into it's like, hey, it's me, like, you know, you still owe me creme brulee, and I love you, Steven, don't you love me? He's like, he does, but he knows, like, right, you're not Christine, remembering everything that's at you know, at stake here. It's not just about, you know, it's like thinking about Wong, thinking about all the innocent people, about this universe, this world. He can't let it end like this, so he won't, you know, help Dark Doctor Strange, but he's amassed so much power at this point that he can't be stopped, and he overpowers the good Doctor Strange, ends up absorbing him. It's like, oh, and it's like, is he about to win? And it seems like he does. And the moment he releases everything, he turns into a grotesque chimera of, like, everything that he's absorbed. And the moment Christine comes back, it's like, oh, you get what you want, but it's not the happy ending you want, because she's terrified of you, because she doesn't recognize you, and the reality is still falling apart around you. It's like, yeah, you got her back, but even in this moment you brought her back, she's scared of you, and also she's disappearing. So it's like, wait, no, this isn't what I wanted. I'm supposed to, no, I can fix it. That's the point. You know, even the good Doctor Strange, like, pointed out, like, your arrogance in believing that we can fix everything, and we can't. Once again, the irony, considering with the whole No Way Home situation, but the argument could be like, yeah, but that's one circumstance that could go down this route. Potentially that's going to affect a lot more realities than just this one. But even in that moment, it's just everything's going wrong, and he's trying to use his powers to, like, halt back the decay of this reality. And then he talks to the Watchers, like, you have to help me. He's like, no, I can't. Like, even if I wanted to and I can't interfere. This is of your own making. You doomed this reality for your selfish needs. Like, there's nothing I can do. Because she's like, you're a god. He's like, no, I'm not. And you're not one either. You've basically, you have to pay the consequences for the choices you made. And then just, like, Christine disappearing and her being like, what have you done, Steven? And I was like, wait, like, because at first I was like, maybe, just maybe he can eke this out and reverse everything. And it's like, nope, uber depressing ending because the entire reality disappears. Everything. You try to bring her back and you came out with nothing. You don't even have Christine, your hubris, your unwillingness to let her go. It's like, that's a rough thing. Like, yes, it's a thing of like, because once again, it's still that kind of conversation about like, your grief doesn't justify you doing what you do. Once again, using Wanda for an example, like, her grief doesn't justify what she did. It's understandable what happened. She lost control, but it is still up to a point of like, you still did what you did. And so, once again, people always made the argument like she didn't suffer the consequences she does. I think she will. I think it's just other things were at play where it's just like, you know, whether it's the aspect of they weren't able to like probably fit everything they wanted into the finale because of, you know, time restraints and stuff like that. But also just because I think we haven't seen the full aftermath of that. You know, I don't think she got away scot-free because she still lost Vision. She still lost her kids. And her reputation is going to be down the tank. Like, she's going to be seen as a villain in the world, depending on whether or not the government makes that known what she did in that small town. Like, that becomes a question of, like, whether word gets out about what she did. I think it won't be until Doctor Strange 2 when we probably get some aftermath to all of that, but his unwillingness to let go, his pain led him down this path, and now an entire reality is gone, and he's there stuck in a bubble of like, right, I'm sorry, what have I done? What have I done? I'm sorry. And he's all alone at the end of it. Like, he's the only thing that survived that reality. You sacrificed every living being in that reality. Come on, it puts you on a worse level than Thanos, and that's saying a lot. The man who wiped out half the universe. You alone, Sorcerer Supreme, were able to do what Thanos couldn't do. Granted, his justification was like, I'm trying to save the universe. That's also the thing, like, Thanos, his justification, you don't have to agree with it. You shouldn't, but you could be like, well, at the very least, he was trying to save the other half of the universe. You wiped out the entire reality, entire universe. It'd be so interesting, like, because you saw how Centuries turned him into what he is, of like his obsession with trying to save Christine. Now what will be the only being left, like trapped, like he's going to be probably exist perpetually in a state in that bubble of like alone emptiness. Not unless he pops into another reality, but it's like, I don't even know if he will die. Like, can he even die with all the power he's absorbed? Like, could he just like grow old and die? Like, that, once again, it's like, that's the most depressing ending. It's like, there's no, like, at least the last episode was like, oh, there's hope. There'll always be Avengers. Like, the what the Avengers represent is so much more than the individuals. Like, you know, it's a symbol, you know, it's not just the people in it. It's what they represent kind of thing. And like, there's hope at the end of it. And this is just like all hope is gone, lost. It's like, uber depressing. Once again, it's that very nature of that No Way Home thing of like, yeah, be careful what you wish for type of thing. Granted, this wasn't necessarily a wish, but you still get what I'm going for it. And I think that's so depressing and so fascinating. I'd be so curious if they ever did anything else with this Doctor Strange. Because I do remember from the trailer there is an interaction between Doctor Strange and Captain Carter, but it looked like it was this Doctor Strange, like the same coat and everything. So like, does he pop into another reality? Once again, like, that's where I'm not sure whether like there's going to be crisscross between these realities, because so far it just seems like they're one-offs in each universe. But I think with the nature of things, it could be interesting to see the aftermath of other, you know, the continuation of some of these realities, but also see like them intersect. So maybe that Doctor Strange could pop into another reality, and it's like, right, he's maybe a reality where Doctor Strange doesn't exist. He's going to play the role of the Doctor Strange in that universe to save it, to make up for the one that he destroyed and failed. I'm probably reaching, but like I could be misremembering because it's been a while since I saw the trailer, so I don't know if that Doctor Strange that I remember interacting with Captain Carter was just a regular Doctor Strange, or was it? I swear it was like this coat that he was wearing, so I think it might be that one, but I could be misremembering. But not unless that's a Doctor Strange from a different reality that was similar to this one, but I don't know. hopefully next episode, because I don't know what it is, because I go into these episodes kind of blind unless I listen to podcasts or something where people talk about it and then they kind of talk about what the next episode might be. But I try to go into these as blind as possible. But hopefully next episode isn't as depressing as this. I'm curious because the Watcher didn't interfere, but he had a conversation with this Doctor Strange. I'm curious, is that going to have some effect on him of like, once again, he's always been the bystander just watching these stories, but this is a story that like had an interaction with him that I'm curious, is it going to be a thing of, will we actually see the Watcher grow as a character where it's like, will this start affecting him when you have to watch so many reality, when you just have to sit on the sidelines and just watch? Like, that's the thing of like, right, you can do more harm than good by interfering, sure, but I don't know. I don't know if that's going to, like, will we actually see progression in the Watcher's character? Kind of like, I think I made this comparison before, like with the Eternals. It's like, they weren't meant to interfere, but eventually they kind of have to. So maybe that still fits within the loophole of like, right, only get involved if it involves deviants, or maybe it's just their time on Earth changed them, and it's like, we care about these humans, so screw the rules that we were given by the Celestials. Let's just a Celestial or the Celestials. And we change our mind, and I'm curious, like, could that potentially happen with the Watcher? Like, can we see these stories start to potentially affect him? And so he's no longer just a viewer, he becomes invested like we are to a certain extent, to the point he might interfere when the time comes. Because maybe there are situations where he has to interfere, and that in itself does cause more consequences. I'm throwing it out there. I'm could be 100% wrong. Like, the whole nature of it is just to watch and not interfere. So I could see that not being a thing. But I'm curious because Steven interacted with him in this episode. I'm fascinated to know if that has any long-term effects over the course of this series. Because it is an anthology, but it's an anthology where we're following the same character, the Watcher, as he views all of these realities. So just something kind of peeking in the back of my mind. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.